Today, I'm joined by Star Taylor. He is a conscious coach, a creator, and famous for sharing his wisdom on emotional fitness on TikTok and Instagram. He has an audience of over 596,000 followers on TikTok under the name Kings of Kings Energy or King of Kings Energy. I followed his content for over the last year, absolutely love it. And he tackles problems like anxiety, procrastination, ADHD, self-confidence, relationship issues, but comes at it from a really different angle to most people, which makes him stand out. And Star offers advice on how you can think for yourself and live with personal power and freedom. So I'm looking forward to getting inside the mind of Star today. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. That was like the best intro I've ever gotten.
Awesome. I always make people listen to the intro. Some people like film it later on, but I want to see your reaction. So
yeah, I loved it. I feel very welcome. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you are very welcome. I really wanted to have this conversation for a while, so I'm glad that it can happen, and I think it's going to be a lot of interesting nuggets come up. So yeah, for those that haven't come across you before and not seen your content, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your journey.
Okay, yeah. My name is Star Jesse Taylor. I was born in Frankfurt, Germany. That's where I grew up. I'm American. I moved to America 10 years ago, maybe around. I don't really know because I moved to so many places. I used to drive Uber and Lyft, funny. And so I came here to the US with 2 bags. I had nothing. I didn't have a car, nothing. I had some friends I lived with. And over time, I built some things up where I was able to have a car and drive Uber and Lyft. And I was always into spirituality. I was always into growing. I always looked for this one key, this one book, this one teaching that would give me success. Because as many people who came on this path, I came from trauma. I had a very challenging childhood. Maybe I'll talk about it later. I actually never really talk about my personal things. I only literally teach, I only think about giving value. And I think that's part of what people have a respect for me, because I usually don't go oh, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I think people can sense that. But to go back to the story, I had a challenging childhood, and I always looked from that place on, damn, I need to get out of here. This sucks. I got bullied for 7 years. So that's a part that I can talk about. I got bullied for 7 years every single day. And I was like, I want to get out of this. I want to have a better life. I want to have a better future. And so at one point I started my chiropractor actually had a car accident, and he introduced me to the law of attraction and other things, and books about subconscious. And that was just the beginning, not knowing that I actually used those things, even used that mental health in a sense also as a compulsion. But over time, fast forward, when I started driving Uber and Lyft, I always loved making videos. And even when I was in the car, I made videos with my passengers, because I knew I'm not going to drive Uber forever. I'm not going to do this. I am going to use this. I'm thankful for Uber and Lyft for making money, but I knew I'm always going to do more. So I knew I want to get out of this no matter how. And I love making videos. So I made funny videos in the beginning, and videos with a lot of girls, actually. I made videos with a lot of girls because I love talking to girls and in my car. And then the first thing when videos blew up of me talking to girls in the car, the guys were like, oh, how are you so confident? And I was like, oh, let me just not answer the questions with comments. Let me go have a Skype call with them, take the recording and put it back on TikTok. So that's what I did. Guys loved my advice. And because I loved, I didn't give the advice, the dumb, stupid advice of oh, you got to do, sorry, I got to put this back on. You got to do this trick and this trick to get the girls. I always came from a deeper place of building yourself up, growing yourself. And this was very attractive to a female audience too, because as we know, well, most of my audience is 70% females, women who love to grow. I have 30% guys, but it was very attractive to like the female audience who in the self growth. And I kept talking about that. So in the end, that's what blew up. And I've been coaching for 2 years. I am practicing every day myself. This is something that I share with others, not to get views. Yeah, I make a living of it, but it's literally me practicing myself. I changed my own brain. I had some of the worst mental health issues you could have. And I found a way to change my brain with practice. Things that other people say you cannot recover from, OCD, ADHD, and those things. And yeah, I changed my brain and I'm teaching everybody else along the way. And yeah, now I'm here coaching, doing podcasts, and hopefully, well, I'm gonna give some great value today with you, John, on this podcast that I can share with you guys. So I guess I don't know. That was my first like intro. I hope that was like uh gave you an idea where to start.
That was great, yeah, because it gave me a real overview in a very short amount of time of a little bit about your journey. And like fascinating that you when you came over to America and then you were driving Uber and driving Lyft, but you also knew there was something else that you wanted to do. And quite often people just have the idea, they might have law of attraction, they're like, this is what I want to create, and they want to go from zero to exactly where they want to get to without having to go along the journey and do different things as well. What was that like for you at that point? Did you see the Uber and doing that job as like a stepping stone for something for you?
Yeah.
Or
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, so was it a stepping stone for you, or was it just you were going to do that and then figure it out later? Did you have a grand plan for what you wanted to do?
Nah, I didn't have a grand plan. I always wanted to do acting, which I'm doing right now on TikTok too with my characters. I want to do acting and express myself and music. I rap too, but I didn't have a plan. I knew that if I drive Uber and Lyft, I'm flexible. Plus, man, I didn't have no job experience before. Like no one would hire me. So like not even like in LA, not even as a waiter, server, people would hire me. And I didn't want to work. First of all, I didn't want to, I was smart already in the beginning. I thought about this before. I was like, I'm not going to be a server because they're going to tell me when to work. I'm not going to be back in the kitchen because it's just going to like ruin, like, I'm just going to be exhausted and not able to do like the things I want to do. So I was like, oh, this new thing, Lyft. And back then it just came up. I was like, oh, Lyft came up and like Uber. And I remember my, one of my friends driving back in the day and she told me about this. And I was like, hey, let me like try this out. So I was like, this makes sense because it's flexible. I can say when I start driving and I can say when I stop driving. And I always knew that I'm not doing this job to make money because I barely was able to pay rent. A lot of times I couldn't even like I was barely paying rent, eating once a day. And it was like, but I knew this is way better than trying to go for like a career or something else because I have the flexibility to do what I actually really want to do, which was making videos. I always loved making videos. Like, and since I didn't get casted in how I got casted in some things, but the directors were always like, we don't like your accent. It was like, we don't like the accent. It's like they still have in Hollywood this idea that a doctor cannot have an accent, that someone who lives in America cannot have an accent, that even a bus driver or someone walking the street can. In reality, all my doctors that are eye doctors are like Russian, for example, or like all of you here in LA or like in the US, like there's so many, but they said no matter how good you are at acting, we cannot take you. And I got scholarships for like the biggest acting schools out there, but they still were like, no. So I was like, on some point, I got to do this myself. And I always saw the YouTubers and I was like, okay, I'm trying it with YouTube. I never got like views with that in the beginning with YouTube and Vine, but I kept going. It was a great thing that I kept going because with Vine, it was 6-second videos. And the 6-second videos, to make a story in 6 seconds is an art. Like you have to bring a story in 6 seconds. And when TikTok came out with 59 seconds or 30 seconds, I was like, I used to do this with Vine. I can make TikToks in 59 seconds, coherent ones, with like going down the road. So I was just trying things out, but I never knew it was like, I knew I'm just going to keep going or die trying, but I'm not going to give up. And the reason with Uber and Lyft, to answer your question, was not like, it was using something where I make money as a tool to put food in my mouth, to make me pay rent, and to have the flexible time for me to make videos and for me to find something that I really love, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely get that. And what I love is that you created something that had the things that were important to you, like the flexibility of when you wanted to work and when you didn't want to work. So
Yeah.
you were able to do that and then mix it in with things that you enjoyed doing, and even making videos on the job as well, and creating opportunities there too. And you mentioned that when you would speak to people, and you are a confident person, you come across and communicate with confidence, and it's great, right? And when people are seeing that and they're wanting to know more about it, and then you mentioned that you don't share like tricks with them or hacks with them. There was something else that was going on in in you sharing with them and teaching them. What's deeper than the tricks and the hacks?
Well, the tricks and the hacks come from a compulsion of human beings to try to get this one thing that I was looking for back in the day that gives you an easy access to success. Because most people don't want to fear the anxiety. They are a slave to the anxiety. So they're a slave to their emotions. They're a slave to their thoughts. And most people are identified with the thoughts. So they actually don't even know that they're doing compulsions. They're just like, oh, all these healers and all these speakers tell me this trick, this trick, this trick. Let me research so I can have control over my reality in an easy, comfortable way, so I don't have to actually face my fears and face my anxiety. So it's really a compulsion of most human beings. And that's why so many of these speakers make so much money with these 5 tricks to get confidence. Sorry, that wasn't like about like any video, but it's like there's 5 tricks to do this, 5 tricks to do that, 5 keys to do anything. And it's really from a place, and a lot of times they know that, to lure that person in, for them to think, oh, so if I do these 5 tricks, I will have the confidence to do my podcast. If I do these 5 tricks, I will have the confidence to start my acting career. If I have these 5 tricks, I have the confidence to do whatever this they want to do. But in reality, that's not how the brain works. And I found that out later, but I found out that I actually used the good things out of what I now know, even back in the day, to come to the US, overcome my fear, and do things. But it came more from a place, I more did it unconsciously, I want to say, because it came from a place from standing against the wall. It was like I had no one to help me. I had no family where I was, and there was no one I could turn to. So it was either I'm going to be a loser, or I'm going to go through that fear, I'm going to go through that anxiety, and I have anxiety, and shoot these videos anyway in the car with my passengers, even though it is kind of like, it was crazy what I did. I mean, I can go like deeper into it later, but to answer your question, it's this addiction of people nowadays in society, especially because human beings became more comfortable and comfortable. I can order Amazon, I can order Postmates, I can order anything, and I don't have to go nowhere. And they train themselves to run away from emotions, because in the morning when they wake up and they have anxiety, they can just grab the phone, go on TikTok and scroll, and they don't know that they actually cause more anxiety with it. I can explain that a little bit later, because I don't want to like jump and confuse the audience why that is, why they create more anxiety when they try to get rid of the anxiety. But the tricks don't work because they are part of the compulsion that the people are doing. So they part of the pattern, and they actually feed the pattern with those, oh, just give me another trick, give me another trick. I call it self-help addiction. It's like, it's easier to grab a book, read it, think you're spiritual, and then say, oh, should I do the podcast now? And most of the time they say, oh no, I'm not ready yet. I need to find another key. Let me get another book. It's easier to sit there and read books and look at videos and say, once I'm healed, once I'm recovered. But they don't understand that this once I'm healed is actually a pattern from the brain to procrastinate more and say that you need to be perfect to start. But actually, you have to show your brain, take that little child that's scared and says, I need to be healed first. I need to start. You actually have to take that little child and put it in those situations, take it with you and do those things no matter how you feel. And then you're showing your brain that it's okay. You have to be the adult now and take your brain to do those things. And that's how you build the skills. And that's how you become successful. There goes a little bit more into that. Part of it is mindfulness too, to cut out the compulsions, but to make like not go on a ramble here, I just give you that as the answer.
Yeah, I think for anyone listening to this, what Stars just said is so, so important when it comes to well-being, personal development, your own personal growth, and becoming the person that you want to become and realizing true potential. Because I've been in personal development for over 10 years and creating content for 5 years and working with people for the last 3 or 4 years. From all around the world, and everybody wants that magic bullet. They want the, the steps and the hacks, and this is what's so key, because there's nothing wrong with them in terms of they're like a protein shake or like a bonus. There's something that you can have on top of your well-being that's underneath. But if you're looking to them for the solution to fix a problem, it's literally like having a beer to relieve anxiety. It's not going to solve your anxiety. It's going to make you feel better for a moment. And I think the key thing that jumped out at me there was that the hack is a compulsion. The hack is a form of controlling the feelings rather than getting to the root of the problem. And, there's nothing wrong with hacks and tips and tricks and tools. They're great, but they're not going to solve your problem. So for me, I go deeper into this because I look at perspective. And so I might offer some hacks, but the real thing I'm trying to do is shift a perspective, because when we have a different set of glasses or lenses on and we're seeing the world differently, then the tools that we use feel different because we're coming from that place. And I know your approach, the way that you've been working, and I want to hear so much more about that, is emotional fitness and building that. And you mentioned doing things when you're afraid, rather than using these compulsions and hacks to take the fear away or take the emotions away. It's taking a completely different approach. This is very counterintuitive for a way that a lot of people have been taught. And I have to remind myself of this all the time and get caught up with the, when someone's promising you the marketing or the magic bullet and you're like, oh, great. So when I just do this one more course or have this one more thing. I knew this when I did my coaching certification, because I've been coaching for a while and I'd done different courses, but I was convinced I have to do the coaching certification in order to then be a coach. But it's just more tools, it's more skills, and they're great, but they don't solve the underlying who you are and how you're showing up and how you navigate things. So, for you, when you came to America and you had no support and you're out on your own, I can imagine that would have been quite terrifying, right? What was that like, and how did you manage any anxiety that you felt, or maybe feeling alone, or feeling like, how do I make decisions and figure all this stuff out and know where I'm going?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was actually better than the place that I was coming from. So it was actually like, yeah, it was challenging because I had to figure it out all by myself. I had to figure out how, because things work different here than Europe. And I had to figure these things out, but I was running away from pain. And it was way better where I was, even with not a lot of money, but with opportunity and without people who constantly judge me or attack me. So, but yeah, I always suggest to people, and even this is what I suggest to parents all the time. Raise your kids to become independent. Stop with the always cuddling them up. Yeah, make sure they're not in danger, of course. Don't let them run on the highway. But let them do their own projects, let them be independent, let them figure things out themselves, because they're showing their brain that they can trust themselves. So, and this is the same with kids and adults. And I see a lot of kids who have been like cuddled up and always served everything. And now they have so much anxiety to do things that they want to do because they never showed themselves that they actually can do things by themselves. I made this video on TikTok. It blew up. It was this 17-year-old girl who drove with her mom to a car dealership, and she just had to pick up her car. Her car was paid for. It was somewhere in the yard, somewhere around there. She just had to go inside to talk to the dealership people to pick up her car. And she was sitting next to her mom in the car, and she said, "Mom, I can't do it. I cannot go inside. I cannot go inside. I didn't sign up for this. This is not okay." She stepped out the car, walked past the car. You see it all in the video. And she came back to the mom. She's like, "Mom, I can't do it. I can't do it." She couldn't pick up her car. And I said in the video, it's about having the uncomfortable emotion and doing it anyway mindfully. The reason why she's where she's at is probably because she avoided a lot of emotions and controlled a lot of emotions. And by avoiding those emotions, you're showing your brain that those things are dangerous, and your brain gives you more danger. It wants to show you, oh, protect you. It's like, oh, there might be more anxiety here. There might be more anxiety here. But letting your kids to do things independently is so important. And then in the comment section down, like thousands of comments. And it was funny because it was like almost the same comment over and over that said, "I used to be so scared, like kids. I used to be so scared of talking to anyone. But then I had to get a job in the serving industry. And through getting the job, they got over their social anxiety because they had to talk to people. They showed their brain, even freaking out. And over day after day after day after day being there, on some point, the little child, the brain's like, oh, I guess we haven't been murdered yet. It's okay. We're still alive. We're still okay." And this is not the most efficient way to do it, by the way. This is because a lot of times they're still doing compulsions in their head, mindfulness. But what happened with me was sometimes it comes from a place of not having any other choice than moving forward. And for me, there was never a debate of giving up. Because what am I going to be, a loser? Like I never had this in me of giving up and taking, like, when I saw people having, and I know like people listening think, oh, when he talks about material things are spiritual too. And by the way, having money is part of happiness. It's not the full thing, but it's part of happiness. Because let me tell you something from someone who didn't have money, was not able to pay his rent, and now through coaching has money, and through like the things the value give. I am happier overall. And the reason is because I have the freedom to do the things, more of the things I want to do. Now, is it the only key to happiness? It's not. But what I want to say is I always was like, yo, I see all these people having things, doing the things they want to do. And I want to express myself with my music, my acting. I want to get there. I want to get to a point where I have a voice, where I can get paid for what I'm expressing. And I always knew I'm not going to stop. There was never the things in my head of like, I'm going to stop driving Uber. I drove Uber for 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I was never like, I'm going to stop driving Uber and I'm going to get a safe fucking job. Like, I was rather like, I'd rather drive Uber for 20 years, which I wouldn't have done. I was just like, I'm going to do things. And even when I was in the car, when I had things that when I was like, oh, this is a crazy video, I could ask my passenger this, I could film now. And I had this anxiety, and it was like, I still did it because what's the other option? Me keep driving? So for me, it was a little bit different answer than a lot of people. It was like, I felt like I have no other choice. I was with the back against the wall. And then an additional thing is, I think I have a very strong soul in a sense where I'm like, I just don't take no for an answer. I'm just going to enjoy my life in some way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely get that. So there's a real drive for you that it's important to do that and follow that. So rather than that grand plan, it was following what's important to you. And the video that you mentioned is really interesting, right? Of how that girl's being taken to the dealership, but she can't go in. And it just shows that if that's something that she's learned over and over again, that when things get difficult, you don't have to go, then you're going to get to that point. And it can be easy to judge her and say, well, she's spoiled. Why shouldn't she go into the shop? She's got all of that there. But when you look at what's going on underneath the surface, there's so much more there, and it starts to become a lot more clear. And again, it comes back to being counterintuitive, that the thing that might look like the solution is actually the problem, right? That coping mechanism is the problem. The not doing it, the alleviating the anxiety, becomes the problem. And so it's having to tackle it a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest problem that I see is people asking the wrong questions. That's the biggest problem I see. The biggest problem I see is people asking the question, how can I get rid of this anxiety? How can I get rid of this procrastination? How can I get rid of this overthinking? How can I get rid of this feeling of overwhelming? And the funny thing is, to get society there, I might title my video this way, but when they get into the video, they see, oh, wow, this is something that no one ever told me about. Because even our general fucking therapy, sorry, I'm cussing, but this is just
go for it.
even our therapy is so a lot of times a coping mechanism, talk therapy, because people go to therapy and then they go out of therapy and they're like, it worked. I feel better. Mom, dad, it worked because I feel better. That's not the sign that your therapy works, no matter who is telling you that. The sign that your therapy is working is that your therapist is helping, that you are actually doing the things that you want to do. That's it. Having a metric of saying, I shouldn't have emotions when I'm doing these things is causing people to have more anxiety. That's a funny thing. That's a paradox. The paradox is that the more you try to get rid of anxiety, the more anxiety you get. And I'm going to explain it with the brain. I'm explaining it real quick. It's the brain's language is not words. The brain actually doesn't, and this, some people listen to this, they're like, this guy's crazy, but I will explain it to you. The brain doesn't understand language. You understand language. You understand how to put sentences together, how to put ideas together. Your brain knows one thing. Your brain knows what you react to, what you spent your time and energy on. That's what your brain knows. And that's why your brain is so good at giving you the thoughts that you react to, the intrusive thoughts. That's why your brain is so good at giving you the fear and overwhelmment or guilt that you react to, because your brain wants to protect you. And your brain doesn't have arms, it doesn't have legs to hold you back, but it knows that it's going to give, if it's giving you anxiety, you don't go out of bed to that dangerous situation that you told it it's dangerous. Because you told the brain, you taught it that going to those social events, doing your podcast, making a TikTok account, starting that job, doing that speech is dangerous by avoiding it. Because why would you avoid it if it's not dangerous? So your brain's like, okay, I got it. Behave. She's behaving this way. This is dangerous. So next time he tries to start his project, I'm going to help him to be protected, or her, by giving them anxiety or depression. And the more you react to that depression, that's the funny thing, the more you stay in bed because of that depression, the more you feed that pattern. But if you actually would be like, okay, I'm depressed, I can have this depression, I can have this anxiety, I'm going to go to the gym anyway, and I'm going to go mindfully. I'm going to go step by step to the gym. I'm going to be there pushing the weights mindfully, and I'm growing the things I want to grow. I'm going to grow relationships. I'm going to go to social events anyway. You are showing your brain that the depression, the old pattern of depression or anxiety, is not helpful anymore. It's not useful anymore, because the brain is a very efficient organ. It will not give you anything that you don't use. If you stop reacting to anxiety and depression, over time, your brain has no use for it anymore. But if you do it to try to get rid of the anxiety, your brain's like, oh, you cannot trick me. I see, this must still dangerous, because you're reacting to it. So it's going to give you more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I think that's where, you look at these emotions like guilt. It's the biggest controlling emotion, guilt, shame, because parents can use it to control their kids because they, oh, don't do that because then we're going to be sad, and then that gets kind of built in. And then what happens is the moment somebody feels guilt, then they jump straight away to solve the problem of guilt, or they feel shame and they want to solve the problem. So what happens is they're like, oh, if I say this, that it happens before it happens. So if I express myself and this person gets offended by it, then I'm going to feel guilt. And because I don't want to feel that, I'm not going to say anything instead. So I just won't say what's on my mind. And then they get this relief of, oh, I didn't feel guilt. And that is like the hit of dopamine, or the hit of reward, that just means, great, keep doing more of that. Yeah. And the brain's saying, keep doing more of that, because then you won't get guilt, because guilt's horrible. You don't want to feel that. It's uncomfortable. And that's why when I'm working with clients and I ask them a question, they're uncomfortable, I feel great because I know I'm doing my job properly. Or if they're going to take an action and they're like, oh, I don't know, then they're starting to move in a direction they've not moved in before. And that's where all the growth is going to be. Because a lot of people have this dream, and I had this for many years. And sometimes I often have the thought of this, and it's, well, the dream is you get up on stage to speak in front of people and not be afraid and be completely calm and robot-like. And that's the dream. And then feeling like, if they have feelings and feel nervous, that means they're not confident, and that means that they're not doing things right. And it's exactly the opposite, because it's a fantasy. It's not reality. Over time, you can get more comfortable doing things, the more that you do them. And then those emotions, where you build that resilience to it and get used to it, they then are not so extreme. So that that's the thing with anxiety, right? We avoid it. It's because we're so not used to it. It's very extreme when you feel it, because it's the unknown is scary. But the more that you're in it and feeling it, like, these are really uncomfortable, unpleasant feelings. But then when they become familiar, rather than it being a 90 or 100, where you're like, whoa, like, and the brain shut down, it becomes like a 70 and then a 60. And people want to go from 100 to 0 with everything, because that's what we see so much, out in the world. But the reality is, it's not. It's a gradual process.
Yeah. That's why it's emotional fitness. So avoiding anxiety, avoiding feelings is like avoiding weights. It's like avoiding taking the stairs. It's like avoiding sweating. The more you avoid running, the more that you avoid the weights, the more unfit you become, the weaker you become. And it's the same thing, the weaker you become with those emotions. It's not that the emotions got bigger, it's you get less able to be a space for them. And so people don't understand why the more they avoid the social circumstances, the more anxiety comes. It's because if you would go with it and be a space for the emotions, you would actually build more emotional fitness. And that is a practice. I wanted to mention something that I forgot earlier, because a lot of people are like, okay, what's with the language of the brain? Why is not language the language of the brain? I give you guys, everybody who's listening right now, try to tell your brain right now, I don't want any of these insecure thoughts anymore. I don't want any insecure emotion anymore. I don't want any anxiety anymore. I don't want any of those intrusive thoughts anymore. Is your brain going to say, oh, sorry, we didn't know. You could have told me this. You could have told me, not giving me these intrusive thoughts, not giving me this anxiety. Your brain's not going to say that, because your brain doesn't understand you communicating to it. Your brain only understands your behavior, what you spent your time on. And it can be spending your time on thoughts in your head, spending your time on emotions, or spending your time on actions. And the most important thing is that, like you said earlier, people react to guilt and then they try to make that feeling feel better. That's still playing the game of the emotional addictive engine. And you will, like this, always stay on that engine. You will stay on the engine of trying to make feelings feel better. Most people are in relationships, not because they care about the other person, not because they care about their partner. They are in a relationship. They are in a relationship because They're in a relationship because they trying to make a feeling feel better. They're trying to chase a feeling. They're not in a relationship because they care about their partner. They're in a relationship because they care about how their partner makes them feel. They're not in a relationship because they're loyal to their partner. They're in a relationship because they're loyal to their own feelings. And as soon as their partner doesn't make them feel better, a lot of people are like, oh, he's not the right partner for me. But it's because they're on the emotional addictive engine. And as long as you're on that engine, you think that's life. But you can literally change your brain to your natural state. The emotional addictive engine is exactly that. It's addictive. It's what we talked about earlier. A feeling of guilt comes up, right? That's like the withdrawal when you need the drugs. You take the drugs, you do some compulsion of grabbing the phone, grab Instagram, or to make the anxiety go away, or actually take real drugs in that metaphor. And you feel better. But what's going to happen again? You now just get more addicted. Another withdrawal, a bigger withdrawal. You need more drugs. You need more Instagram. You need more TikTok. Now you're having TikToks where you can have you need shorter and shorter TikToks for your attention span. If you saw the TikToks over the last 2 years, they got shorter and shorter. Not only that, now you have two different screens on one TikTok, where the screen above is where someone talks and the screen underneath is where someone has like a race car game, because now your brain needs two visuals to keep their attention. That's the progress of the addiction of the society. And it's literally the most important thing, that people switch from the emotional addictive engine to the valued action engine. In the beginning, that's going to be uncomfortable. The reason why it's uncomfortable is because your brain doesn't like it. It's scared. It thinks you're running on the street. It loses its control over you and it wants to protect you. So it doesn't like you doing new things that it thinks you told it is dangerous. You told the brain that doing your podcast, doing your dream, going out there and talking to guys or girls is dangerous. So now that you're doing it, the brain's like, no, wait. They are running on a street. They're running on a full highway right now. I need to give them more anxiety. I need to give them more depression. And then some people are like, oh, this must mean something. This depression, this anxiety must mean something. But it's really that you just need to mindfully keep going. And that's one of the most important things, the mindfulness, because you can have outside compulsions where, for example, when jealousy comes up, maybe I need to explain if your listeners aren't aware what a compulsion is. A compulsion is anything you do to make a feeling feel better, to try to control a feeling, to try to control a situation, to try to control a thought, to try to avoid a feeling. It's anything that has to do with you controlling, trying to get safety, trying to avoid uncertainty. So there's outside compulsions and there's inside compulsions. An outside compulsion is, as an example, in a relationship, let's say jealousy comes up and you're trying to make that jealousy feel better by going on Instagram and checking in your stories what your partner's doing, so you have control over them, or you text them to see what they're doing, or whatever you do to try to control that feeling, to make that feeling feel better, or get revenge, or whatever you try to make that feeling feel better. That's the action. You do something outside. You're grabbing the phone, you're texting them, whatever you're doing to try to make that feeling feel better. Now, let's say you worked with me and I told you compulsions, not good, got cut it out. Let's say you cut out checking the phone for reassurance. And let's say instead you do a valued action, like maybe you play soccer or you play chess, or you go out with your friends, growing relationships by having conversations, or you're building your podcast. If while you're doing your podcast, you're doing your videos, you're talking to your friends, you're still spending time in your head trying to control that situation. For example, a thought comes in and says, oh, what if he cheats on you right now? And in your brain, you have a conversation like, oh, no, he wouldn't do that. Even calming that down is still reacting to the pattern. Or you say, let me think, when is he usually coming home? He might be home right now. Is he not home? You're still spending time in your head on exactly that pattern. So you're still doing inside compulsions. And a lot of people who don't have success, the reason for that is because, yeah, they might have cut out the drugs and the outside compulsions and all those things to try to make their feelings feel better, but they still spending time in their head on those inside compulsions, talking back to those thoughts. Now, we don't have control over a thought that comes in. We don't have control over a thought that comes in. That's okay. You don't have to have control over it. Just don't talk back to it. It's allowed to be here. It's allowed to be here. The thought is allowed to be here, but you don't have to talk back to it. Guess what you can do? You can focus back on walking well right now, having a well mindful walk. You can focus back on driving well right now. You can focus back on playing soccer right now. You can focus back on making this video right now with any emotion and thought that comes up. And that would be the cutting out compulsion part.
And what's interesting is behind all of these thoughts and behind all of the stuff that's going on inside of us is a wisdom that we can channel through and tap into. That's really exciting. It's really where that peace and everything is beyond all of the thought and all of the compulsions. But what I got from that is that if we're trying to change a feeling through a compulsion, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to control a situation, which then leads us to feeling more out of control, versus doing what we want, which is having more choice and essentially then having more control. And you can see how this on a bigger scale shows up if somebody doesn't set a goal at all, because the idea of setting a goal which is outside of their control is really scary. It's one of the biggest forms of anxiety. It's why people don't set goals or don't do things that they want to do, because what if I don't do it? What if it's too much effort? What if it's too much hard work? What if I don't achieve it? And that creates anxiety. So rather than setting that intention or goal, they just don't have it at all and don't do anything. And that's a way of trying to control it and another form of compulsion. And so by saying this is something that I want to do and I'm going to commit and go and do it, you're going to have to go through all the feelings in order to make that happen and show up. And that's why a commitment is a really, really powerful tool. And why people, I was thinking about this morning, actually, like, why don't we commit to things? And we could say, well, there's the one reason why we don't commit, but there's millions of different reasons why we don't commit. And they all they're all adding weight to the brain's power to say, well, don't do this. And then all the thoughts that are coming up. And one thing that you mentioned that's also important to note is that we can't control the thoughts that come into our head, right? And there's a lot of talk of control your thoughts. And I think when we take our focus and we place our focus onto something, and sometimes that can be a thought that's really useful. Sometimes it can be a situation or action. That's great, but we cannot control the thoughts that come in our head. And people beat themselves up for that. I know I did for many years, and I believed that I was the thoughts, but they're okay. There's nothing inherently wrong about a particular thought. It's just whether we give that energy and we get lost in it and then let that thought dictate our actions and what we do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like the control and safety that you talked about, the trying to get rid of uncertainty. Many people who come from traumatic experiences, they look for that control and safety because the traumatic childhood was very uncertain. There was no control. And now they're looking for the control in anything they can hold on. It can be religion, where that religions tell them that they control where they're going to go after death, heaven or hell. And if they do the right things that the religion tell them, they might be safe, right? That's not to say that religion is a bad thing. Everything can be a compulsion or a value. A fire can burn down a house or it can warm you. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago when I started, I think 3 years ago when I started coaching, because I was so ambitious with helping people, I was always like, I have to meditate before every call to be in the right state. But then still, what I realized later was a compulsion because I tried to control a state that I was in. I tried to control something still. So I realized, oh no, I don't have to do this. This is where I used meditation as a compulsion. Meditation is not to be used to get a certain state, to do certain things. And that's what I used to think. I used to think I have to become calm, I have to become clear. But the more you say I have to become clear, the more dirty you feel. That's the funny thing. That's exactly the thing with contamination compulsion, with OCD. The more people wash their hands, the more dirty they feel. It's the same thing. Everybody almost everybody has OCD. That's a funny thing, because OCD is just compulsion. And people who come from trauma try to control things. And a lot of times they get into these teachings. And I got into these teachings, the same thing. I thought, this is great. I can control things with my thoughts. And this is so alluring. And this is such, and getting away from these teachings was almost like I'm losing like a community. Almost like it felt like I was, okay, one of my superpowers that I always say is I'm always willing to be wrong. I'm always will be willing to be wrong if I find something that works better. And it got me to where I am. Because with the amount of brainwashing, with the amount of books I read about spirituality, with the amount of knowledge I had, and even started teaching a lot of these things in the beginning, I literally, you could say, I didn't build the identity, kind of, yeah, I kind of built an identity. And for me to leave that, that's what a lot of people need to do. Because if you look at your life and you ask yourself, am I using this to try to control things, to try to get a better feeling, to try to make myself feel better? And this is what a lot of people use these spiritual teachings for. And a lot of people will even get angry at me for a lot of things, not only spiritual teachings, but like ADHD. When I say you can recover from ADHD, I'm telling you right now in this microphone right now, anybody, if you have ADHD, you can recover if you do certain steps. You will recover, actually. If you do these steps, if you go through uncomfortable feelings, if you practice your focus, if you practice emotional fitness, you will get, no matter what kind of fucking ADHD you have. Now, without even trying out what I'm saying, without even practicing, there will be a lot of people who scream at me and say, no, it's the ADHD brain. Don't you know the scientist said this, or this study says this? Oh, really? The study that gives the pharma industry millions and millions of dollars in pills. Not only that, the therapy industry, millions of, because if you cannot recover from something, you always have to cope with it. And who helps you coping with it? All those fucking stupid medications. So it's not, don't think of it as right or wrong or right. It's about literally figure out, like, what is a compulsion? What are the things you're doing to try to get control and safety? And a lot of times for me, I let go of these teachings. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. But it was the right thing looking back. Because now I feel so much more in reality. I had such I was so interwoven in these teachings, and I had such an identity with these teachings that I didn't see reality anymore for what it was. And I was really good at these teachings. I literally could regurgitate a lot of these teachings constantly, better than I watched thousands of Abraham Hicks videos. No, 10,000s. I watched some again and again. I went to so many workshops, and yeah, part of it, I learned something. I got probably some good things out of it, but overall it came from the place of compulsion. I'm so glad that I was courageous enough to say, oh, wow, this is a compulsion. And now I have a choice. I can either stay with the safety of this community, so to say, and be like, no, this is my identity, and I cannot start something completely new, or I can go into reality and start something new. And so I had to, because, by the way, these teachings, eventually, I promise you this is what's going to happen. Eventually, they will destroy your mental health. And the reason for that is how the brain works. And I didn't know this, so I explain it real quick. If you always I have to think positive, I have to think positive, I have to think positive. In the beginning, it's going to give you this relief and this excitement. It's going to give you this oh, this is cool. This is new. I can control my reality. I love it. So you're saying I can be a superstar, movie star with just thinking? So I don't even have to do these fearful things anymore. I can just write in my journal. So in the beginning, you actually will have some highs, and you will tell everything you meet, you're the best manifester, you can, everything, you're amazing. But I'm telling you what the brain's going to do over time. The brain's like, okay, I want to support you. So we only can have positive thoughts. Okay, we can only have positive thoughts. And on some point, your brain's like, but wait. So if we can only have positive thoughts, Are you saying we cannot have negative thoughts? We cannot have things. So what about this thought? And what about this negative thought? And what about this negative thought? And guess what you're doing? No, I cannot have negative thoughts. It's going to freak me out now. And you become the craziest slave to this. And you're spending hours and hours of your day trying to fix and control thought. And it's going to fuck up your mental health. Not only that, I promise you. And this is for someone who went through this stuff. And there's almost no one who goes through this stuff and gets out of it because they so identify with something. They might jump identities, but they're so identified. And telling you, after I cut that shit out, I became more successful than I was ever before in all areas. And it was not through controlling my thoughts. It was literally just about realizing what's a compulsion and making it about the actions that I value and going for those actions. And guess what happened? Along the way, I built skills and I became really, really good at what I was doing. And now I'm just giving more value and I get more back. That's how the universe works. You give more value and you get more back. Anybody who wants to make money, that's it. If you find a way to give more value, and that has also to do with you building skills, if you find a way to build more skills, you will win. But most people don't even get into that because building skills also is like, I got to go to the gym when I don't feel like it. Okay, today I'm happy to go to the gym, but tomorrow you might not feel like it. But you're only going to build skills if you do that. So I thought it was really important to mention that because I'm sure there's a lot of people who got caught up like me in these teachings and ask yourself this question. Do I want to believe these teachings? Do I want to believe they're true? Because they give me a comfort and safety. And if the answer is yes, that might be dangerous. And then you look, oh, wow, this is why I'm so lured in by the tricks and the spirituality and the magical things, because it tells me I can control my reality. And this is what was missing from a traumatic experience. I had trauma and all I wanted to be is safe. I was abandoned by my family. All I wanted to do is being safe, have control. This is promising me safety and control. And it doesn't only have to be spiritual teachings. It can be anything else. It can be relationships that you're being needy in. It can be anything else. So ask yourself, where am I trying to get control and safety and trying to avoid feelings?
Yeah, I love that. And I think a great question to ask is, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? Am I doing it to make me feel better or to alleviate a feeling? Or am I doing it because I choose to do it? And I personally think the most powerful thing that we can experience as human beings is freedom of choice. And if we get to choose what we're doing, great. And if we're keeping ourselves in a prison in our own head, and we're not even aware of that because we're just being a slave to our emotions, then life's not going to be fun for us. And that's what that, if you look at OCD or compulsions, really it's perfectionism. Everyone's a perfectionist about something. And what that really is that fear of feeling the feelings and being vulnerable, because perfectionism or perfection is total control. And that's what OCD is. If I do this, then I'll feel perfectly safe, perfectly safe, perfectly safe. But the more we do it, the less safe we feel, because safety is in the thing that we're doing rather than us. And I think it's an interesting point you made about meditation, because I've used it as a compulsion for sure. When, I got really into it and I had that power of, wow, this is incredible and I'm reaching new heights. And then it became, well, I have to do it to feel calm. I have to do it to feel good. And then the shape of the experience of meditation changes. And it's like people can do this with anything, whether that's meditation or sex or exercise. When it is, are you doing it because it's an enjoyable thing that you choose to do because that's what you want to do, or because you're doing it to escape something that you don't want to be experiencing? And it's such a subtle but such a huge difference it can make in the way that somebody feels about themselves and the way that they experience life as well. And I think what's interesting, me and you share the fact that we love making videos and love putting that out there. Like, I absolutely love it. And I think for me, the same as well. When you were speaking about read all these. I have spent thousands and thousands of hours. People tell me I'm an encyclopedia of personal development because I can quote random obscure stuff from all over the place on law of attraction and mindset and everything. And everything changed when I actually got out and started taking action and thinking for myself, because you've got all these, there are really good concepts. And like we're saying, they're really useful if you're using them in the right way and not relying on them to sit in a room and just read another book and feel better. But you're actually like, wow, this Tony Robbins stuff, I'm going to go out and write down my goals and go out and take action on it. This stuff works if you apply it. So it's like all of that. And for me, it was making content. I know you've made thousands of videos, but that's where the game changes from being a consumer to then being a creator, because then you're out on the front line. People are going to judge you. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're not going to have good ideas. You're going to have to keep going. And that's where all of the stuff, you build that ability to be able to handle those uncomfortable feelings and challenges and setbacks, rather than just trying to make yourself feel good all the time. And I think that's when you're putting it into action, that's where the game changes. And you're out there doing it. So everybody that is taking action and putting themselves out there, I take my hat off to you, because you're doing it. And that's all that matters. And the success is in doing it, rather than the result, or you have to have lots of financial success or lots of followers or anything. That comes as a result of it. You're not, again, if we're doing it for the money, or we're doing it for the followers, or we're doing it for, I had periods of that where, what can I make that people will really like, that would be really good? And then I don't enjoy it and it's not fun. And then when the likes and the follows don't come in, what am I doing wrong? And then it becomes a compulsion, or it becomes something you don't want to do, versus this is really interesting. This really, really helped me shift something in my life. Let me share that. And if people like it, great. And if they don't, great, because I'm doing it because I want to, because I choose to. And that's when, if you look at manifestation, you then let go, and what happens, more stuff comes into you because you don't need it, versus that I have to have it. And we see that in relationships as well. It's like, I need this person to complete me and make my life better. And it's needy energy, it pushes them away, versus the person who's like, I've got a great life. I'd love to spend time with somebody, that would be great. And then they bring that into the connections with people. It's more attractive, and it also allows them to meet the right person for them, rather than kind of having to force it. So it's this idea of, are we doing things for the right reason for us? And is it something that we're choosing to do, or we feel like we have to do? And if we look at the idea of like being good enough, or believing that we're good enough or not good enough, if we're believing that we're not good enough and then we want to solve that, then we're going to do lots of different things to try and protect that or hold on. The idea of when we say to ourselves, do you know, I'm good enough to start that career, or start a podcast, or start a business, it's vulnerable, because you're gonna risk failing, risk looking stupid. And that's why giving yourself permission to be enough is actually a very vulnerable act, because it means there's no hiding, right? You're out and you're going for it. And it can feel, it feels vulnerable. It can feel unsafe. What I'd love to know from you is, what makes you feel safe? And that could be a great question, or it could be that you go in a different angle. But I feel like you get what I mean by that, because there's, what makes you feel safe?
I don't look for safety. I think what I look for, I don't think I look for growing things I want to grow, like a garden. Mark Freeman talks about this, garden of life. I have values, and like physical fitness, relaxation, building my business, relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships. And then I'm going to do the actions that grow that garden, if I feel safe or not. And in the long run, because you're going to build a support system, you're probably you might overall feel happier and safer. because you're supporting your garden, you have more abundance in your garden. But looking for that, I don't look for that feeling. I don't do anything to try to feel safe. But I don't know if your question was directed in the way that I answered it.
This is why I asked the question and then went to think of a different way to answer it, because but I knew you'd answer it in the way that you did subconsciously, of like, what makes you feel safe, and where you've gone is, I don't seek it. Because again, we're back on the same, we can see that, this is what we're going to do. How do I feel safe? I want to feel safe. And then what are we going to do? Loads of behaviors that make our world small.
Yeah.
It's like an agoraphobic stays in that. How can I stay safe? I'll stay in my house and I'll never leave. And then what happens? The world is the scariest place in the world. And what you're saying is, I don't seek safety because it doesn't make me feel safe. Instead, I seek doing things that I value, doing things that are important to me. And it's almost like, and you can tell me if this is what it's like for you or not, in seeking those things, a feeling of security comes as a result of that. Is that what happens for you, or is it something different?
I want to like make a shout out to, and I have to shout him out because he really like changed my life from the amazing teaching he does. Mark Freeman, he says so many amazing things. Guys, check him out on YouTube. But he said this, and this is more what I live like. It's instead of fixing, adding. So I add instead of fixing. And this is the example he gave. If you have a glass of water and you put like 3 scoops of salt in it, is it going to taste salty?
Yeah.
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 But if you have a lake, a fresh lake of water, and you put 3 scoops of salt in it, does the lake taste salty?
No.
It doesn't. So I always say, just add more healthy things, add more water, add more things. And along the way, yeah, you might choose something where you fall on your face. But then instead of fixing something, just add some more things. Now, it's the same thing with like social media. I don't know which videos are going to be successful. I mean, I kind of maybe have a feeling sometimes this makes sense and this not. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep adding. I'm going to keep giving value every day, no matter how I feel like. And then over time, now I have access to talk to people that I didn't have access before. Famous people reach out to me or recognize me even on the street and are like, yo, I saw your videos. I want to talk to you. I'm not going to say his name, but famous college player who's now in the NBA recognized me on the street. And it was actually, I was eating at a place. God, I don't want to say where it was, but because it's going to give it away who it is. But I was eating at a place and I didn't even know who he was. He recognized me. He was like, from TikTok. And I was like, yeah. And he sat down with me and he was so like conscious, wonderful person. At first I was like, oh, are you a volleyball player? Are you a basketball player? He sat down with me, conscious, wonderful person. And afterwards, people came up to me, can we have pictures? Can we have pictures? When I was driving Uber, he wouldn't have come up because he doesn't know me, right? But by adding water every day, water, I'm adding healthy stuff. I'm making more videos. I'm making more videos. These doors, so to say, open of having like a friendship with like someone who is conscious and who is also successful. I want people to know that a lot of successful people are actually real like sweethearts, so to say, like real like good people. Those are the people that usually you don't have to look out for. You have to look out for the people who don't have anything because they have nothing to lose and they come for you a lot of times and trying to take. So through me adding water after water after water, day after day after day, now I have access to so many wonderful people. And not only that, I have access to more money so I can buy better food. Along the way, did I make some mistakes? Yeah. Did I fall on my face? Yeah, but it was not about that one video. It was about, and this is again what Mark Freeman said, the big picture. Think about the big picture. Don't think about this one video. And this is the mistake I used to make. You can learn from this. If you listen to this, you can learn from this. I used to make this music video. And I was like, this music video is going to make me break through. This is the most important music video. This is the music video. And now days and days, and I spent so much money on it. Was it a little bit successful? Yeah, it was a little bit successful. But afterwards, I was just like, and what now? Like disappointment. And I was young and I didn't realize that it was not about this one video. It was about me making another video and another song and just making another song the next day, another song. But I didn't know that. I was like, this should have been the song that got me out there. But nowadays, if I could go back to that kid, I'd be like, forget that music video. Like, yeah, shoot it, but make another song, another song. And it's about the skills that you build along the way. And those skills, you can lose everything. You can lose your channel, you can lose videos, you can lose whatever. You will build another channel because you got the skills to do that. So I don't look for safety, but I make sure that I create the right atmosphere for me to have an abundant and easy life. And I know what I have to do for that is go in the direction and have the uncertainty and also explore new things, try out new things. A lot of things on TikTok was me trying out new things. And I'm never a person who's like, oh, I have successful with these videos now, with the last 100 videos. And because I get bored too. But am I just going to stick with it now? I can't stick with something. I want to try out something else. And I think that makes me divergent and finds out a lot of things. So I'm looking more for adding instead of fixing, and exploring instead of staying stagnant, and moving forward, not in a like way that's, I feel like I'm giving away like ideas that I haven't given away before, which is good, which is like a podcast, which it should be. So it's first time that I'm saying these things, but more like effective of like, yeah, of course, if I'm probably not going to go on Twitch because Twitch doesn't have the reach that I have right now on TikTok. So to use my time smartly, I'm going to use the platforms that are most useful for me. But then I'm going to go in that direction and I'm going to make videos and I'm going to give value, even if, oh, this might not be right. This might not be the right thing. This might not be good enough. I'm going to do it anyway on those platforms to try things out, to get skills. But yeah, of course, if you have to ask yourself beforehand, am I using, is this the right platform? Is this a good platform to use, or is this a good platform to use? If that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. And I love that idea of not fixing, but adding.
Yeah.
Because when we're fixing, we're just honed in on the problem, trying to sort the problem out, and we're not looking at where we can move into the solution. It's like looking behind us and saying, well, how can I solve looking behind me, rather than we'll just turn around and walk forward, walk towards where
exactly.
you go.
Tupac said this. Tupac said, you can either ask yourself, why should I have done this? Should I have done this? Woulda, coulda, shoulda, do it? Or you can leave the pieces on the floor and move the fuck on, move on.
Yeah, and it just seems too simple, and it is pretty simple. I mean, a lot of the stuff that really works is very, very simple, but it's just not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if it was, everyone would be doing it, and that's why it's powerful. But that's a cool story, and I think, yeah, when it comes to people that are successful, I work with clients around the world, and have worked with some really successful people in a range of different industries, and people think that they're different, but they're not. They're human beings, the same as us. And I remember this when I first looked at the people that I admired, like Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer, and I'm like, these guys are like gods. And then I realized they're not. They're human beings that have worked really hard at what they do, and so got really good at that. But successful people, they may have a huge amount of success in one area, but there's so many different areas to their lives, and they might not have success in other areas. So they might be a successful singer, but really struggle in relationships, or really good at business, but then really struggle with their confidence. Like, it could be absolutely anything. And that's why, I heard about Mark Freeman from you actually, and I read You Are Not a Rock, the
Yeah,
book.
it's
I
amazing.
recommend it to people. And that is a premise. You are not a rock. We're not robots. We're not a rock. We have emotions, and so do other people. And I think it connects us on a better level to realize that the other person that you're speaking to is a human being and they have emotions, just like you. All the crazy thoughts you have, other people have those too, the doubts and insecurities. And when we judge somebody based on what they've achieved or what they look like on the outside, which our brain naturally does, then it can make us feel less confident because we're making an incorrect comparison that's not true. It's so the more that we can appreciate the fact that other people are humans too, and also from the fact that when people see sports stars and they're just judging them and shouting obscenities at them, or somebody who's a waiter in a restaurant and they're speaking to them horribly, you're forgetting that is a human being. It's a person with feelings just like you. And if somebody said that to you, how would you feel? And they might be able to brush it off because they've had it a lot, but they're still a person, right? And that connects us on a deeper level, because now we're not just thinking of people as like objects that we can get something from. They're real people. Have a conversation, connect, realize the humanness in them. And it makes it less scary too, and more fun. Yeah, also what I got, so for you, is adding and putting out value and doing things that you value, which, you know, when we are adding value to other people, we don't have to just think, oh, well, let me just add value. We can do it in ways that are really fun for us. Like, I love making videos, I love coaching, I love all this stuff. So when at times get hard, I think about quitting loads, but I don't, because I love it too much. The poker players that I work with that have had success for 10, 15 years at the top of their game, they're playing like tiny games, big games, everything, play for fun with their friends, because they just still love it, versus the ones trying to force themselves to love it. It's a different game. So we can add value to people in ways that we really choose and that work for us. When I first started, I wanted to do like some voluntary work when I was playing poker professionally, and I wanted to contribute. And I did some work in a soup kitchen and helped there. And I did a day, and it's because I wanted to contribute, right? But I didn't really enjoy it that much. And there would be part of me goes, well, you want to contribute, so go and do this because it's going to be good, and that's what you want to do. But it wasn't right. And in the end, I ended up working at a charity called The Listening Place and speaking to people that struggle with, or that are suicidal, right? And I would just sit and listen, and no coaching or anything else. But I loved it. There was something in that really hit me. And then going and volunteering there was something that I valued, so I wanted to do, versus if I was volunteering, you know, making food for people or something else, I wouldn't have enjoyed that as much. So we get to choose what we do, and it is an experimental game to figure out what that is. And we got to go and do lots of things that we might not enjoy or might not want to do in order to figure out what we do. And it comes back to taking action and getting out there. And what I was hearing about you, you know, adding value, but being creative and experimenting with stuff. Again, it's all uncomfortable, and it's all going to take you to new and different places. So what I'd love to know is, if you were to tell someone what emotional fitness is and how they can practice it, kind of practically, what would be, without any hacks or tips, what would be a good place for someone to start?
I always start with my clients with social media. When they wake up, and because usually people nowadays make their feelings feel better and try to avoid thoughts by going on TikTok or Instagram or checking text messages or checking all kinds of Snapchats. So if you wake up and you start your day with compulsions, you're going to continue your day with compulsions, because your brain's just wired like that. Your brain's like, oh, we're doing this right now, and then I'll give you more thoughts of this. So I would push social media till the end of the day. So I'm not even telling people to cut it out completely. Have 2 hours at the end of the day. Usually people have 6 to 8 hours during the day just going there. Have your 2 hours. You can do whatever. You can scroll as much as you want to. You can 2 hours at the end in those 2 hours, you can watch Netflix, you can do all kinds of things at the end of the day. But in the beginning of the day, when you wake up, even if you have anxiety and your brain says, oh, we have to figure this out, we have to figure this out, go like, stop, brain. Now we're going to go now and grow our physical fitness or our business. We're going to create something. We're going to do these actions, or we're going to make breakfast for us, healthy breakfast, but we're going to do it mindfully. And not while we're doing breakfast, spending time in our head, thinking about what our boss is going to say or our job. We're going to make the breakfast. And in the beginning, the brain's not going to like it. It's like, this is not what we're doing. We're usually doing 8 things at the same time. This is not okay. We have to figure this out. We have to be productive. We have to plan our work right now in our head so we're good at work. But even you thinking things that you like, doing things that you like in your head, is going to be a compulsion, and it's going to turn, your brain doesn't differentiate. It doesn't know, oh, she likes to plan, but she doesn't like to think about things that give her anxiety. Your brain's like, hey, if you like these thoughts about planning, you probably also like these thoughts about your partner cheating on you. And if you like these thoughts, you must like these thoughts. Your brain's like, not like this is positive, this is negative. Your brain's like, hey, you've been daydreaming a lot about this. Can you daydream about getting into a wheelchair or having a car accident? Here are some thoughts about that. So it's not only a good place to start, is also cutting out the things that you think you like doing, like daydreaming or planning your grocery list in your head while you're doing something. So doing that, waking up, and I like to do something physical, like physical fitness, and doing it mindfully. And you can use your phone as a tool where you set a timer and you say, this is what I do, by the way. I go running and I set like a timer maybe for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. Not allowed to touch my phone. I put the timer on and I go running, and I always bring my brain back. You always bring it back. You're literally teaching your brain like a dog. So you're running and your brain might be like, oh, think about what Kathy did at work, or think about what your boyfriend said this time. And the urge is to literally talk back. It's almost like this urge, I have to talk back. I have to control this. And it's going to be about, no, brain, I'm running right now. And you can like, some fun things I created for me is like, no, brain, I'm bougie. I'm running like, I don't talk to you. It's not talking time right now. What are you talking about? And I go back focusing on running, focusing on around me. And some people are like, oh, how do you do mindfulness? And that's another compulsion. You try to control getting mindfulness. Mindfulness is something actually that you get better at when you practice it. A lot of people are, this is the same thing as asking, how am I going to become the great soccer player? Tell me, give me the book or the technique to become a great soccer player. You need to start playing soccer. Now, there's a few things with mindfulness. You just come to the present moment. A good saying to say is, do the thing that you're doing well. Walk well, drive well. Don't listen to music. Don't listen to podcasts to make a feeling feel better. I'm not saying never listen to music, but have you tried out to drive without music and podcast? It sucks in the beginning. And I'll tell you why it sucks. Because your brain has the fear it loses control over the thing that you used to do, which is avoiding feelings and avoiding thoughts. So it's like, no, it's going to give you good reasons. Like, no, give me, we need to listen to a podcast. We need to listen to Joe Rogan because it's going to make us grow. It's going to give you a good reason. It doesn't care. It will give you a good reason. And if you do it, you were still a slave to the brain. So think about this. Are you setting your values, or are you reacting to the good ideas that your brain gives you? Because a lot of times these good ideas are really just compulsions again. Yeah, from time to time, while you're making a video or creating something, your brain's going to give you a good idea and you can use it then. I'm not saying anything against that. But if you wake up and you say, I'm going to go to this social event tonight because I want to grow my relationships. And yeah, I have anxiety, but I go. And if at night, just before, the brain's like, no, you need to be more productive. You need to maybe work on this project. The brain will literally, and I'm saying this truthfully, the brain, it will feel wrong. The brain will give you thoughts that it makes it feel wrong. But that's exactly why you got to do it. Because you're showing your brain that you're the boss, and it only feels wrong because it's the old pattern. But over time, the more you do it, it will feel normal. But it's not about the feeling. Get the feeling out. It's about doing the actions. So I tried to give like some examples where you can like start doing emotional fitness. You can check out, I mean, I'm going to say this here, shameless plug, but the emotional fitness program. I know you tried it. I think you got it.
I have done it. Yeah. I went all the way through it. I got a lot of value from it. I can highly recommend it to anyone that's wanting to build their emotional fitness and wanting to really practice some of the concepts that we've been talking about today. Yeah, it showed it within that program. There's clips of Star actually coaching people on these very topics. So people are going to bring up a lot of the questions that you may well have, questions I had, and they're getting coached on it, and then you're getting to see that and really get the value from that. So it really helped me get an understanding of what emotional fitness is and some practical ways that we can apply it, other people are applying it, and diving in. So yeah, I highly recommend that for anyone that's interested.
Yeah. So it's really about changing your emotion. It's coming from, it's looking at your emotions in a new way. It's changing your relationship with your emotions. People categorize their emotions. They say anxiety is good, frustration is bad. Anxiety is bad, frustration is bad, anger is bad, and happiness, only happiness is good. We all need to be happy. Happiness, everything's happiness. I need to be happy. And they're chasing a feeling of happiness, and I have to find this feeling. But this is actually causing more unhappiness to chase happiness, because you're literally saying, okay, I need this feeling to be able to do the things I want to do. And if I don't have this feeling, there's something wrong with me. Guess what your brain's going to do? Your brain's like, wait, are we happy? I don't think we're happy right now. And it's going to get more detail. And we don't have all the happy thoughts right now. We don't have this perfect thing. And this is going to look for all the reasons why you're not happy. And even if it's like the smallest thing, and it's going to make you unhappy. And this is where cognitive diffusion comes in. The differentiation between you and your brain. Understanding that you are not the thoughts. Stop identifying with the thoughts. Even when thoughts come in like, I'm not good enough. Even thoughts like, I want to kill myself. A lot of times that is not you. It's not you. Actually, every time it's not you. It's a pattern that comes in to try to control, like, I'm not good enough. Oh, now we can avoid this. It's going to give you the old pattern to bring some control in. It doesn't even know what it's saying. I want you to really understand that the brain has no idea what it's actually talking about. It literally gives you what it knows you react to. And it knows to the dot from being with you since you were a toddler what you react to. And don't think everybody reacts to the same things. Some people react more for guilt, like a lot of religious people, like they're like, oh, if I do this, I'm morally guilty. Some people react more for anger. Some people react more to depression. Some people react more to anxiety. The brain gives you what you will react to. And if you don't react to it anymore, over time, it will not give it to you anymore. But that's why it's going to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because in the beginning, those things are what you always reacted to. So now not reacting to it, it's almost like craziness. And it's not really using your intelligence. It will use what it knows you react to, even in thoughts. It will combine thoughts. It will combine emotions. And something to look out for is when it doesn't have access anymore, when you don't react to emotions and thoughts anymore, sometimes it gives you headaches. It gives you bodily sensations because your brain even has access to that. So to really give you the truth here is, it's not even about emotional fitness. Emotional fitness is just something that happens while you're doing the important thing. The most important thing, I'm gonna give you guys this today, is doing the actions. It's doing the actions that you want to grow mindfully, because then you don't do compulsions in your head if you're doing them mindfully, and you don't do compulsions if you do the actions, because you do the actions because you value those, not to make a feeling feel better. You want to grow something, not to make a feeling feel better. So really, if you really were going to go really deep, it's not about emotional fitness. It's not about compulsions. trying to build emotional fitness or trying to make it about compulsions is a compulsion itself, because then you're like, is this a compulsion? Is this not a compulsion? Am I building emotional fitness? All of that is still trying to get a result. It's about, hey, I want to grow this. What actions lead there? I'm going to do these actions and I'm going to do this mindfully. And you know what's funny? When people hear me talking about this, it's like, wait, what? This is way too simple. No, let me go to Joe Smo's program, who gives me the complicated, magical unicorn technique, 369, blah, blah, blah technique that gives me the safety and control to do the thing I want to do. Guess what? It is that simple. Life is that simple, but it's way more challenging than using Joe Schmo's technique, because you literally have to accept the uncomfortable emotion, ignore, not react to your brain, and show your brain a new way to do things. Take that little child that was scared by the hand that said, we don't want to be bullied anymore, but we don't want to be abandoned anymore, but we don't want to be finding out that we are a failure. Taking him by the hand with all those emotions, all those insecurities, and doing it anyway. And over time, your brain's like, why would I bring up these insecurities and thoughts if you go there anyway all the time? But it's still not about the emotions. It's literally you guys changing from the emotional addictive engine to the valued action engine. And be kind with yourself. But it's a practice. It's a process. Everybody who tells you there's a trick that you can use for a week is a fucking liar and is using your money and is using your compulsions to try to get the comfortable, safe thing for their own pockets. So it's literally like a sport, like coaching. But you will see the results along the way. You will see your brain change along the way. I'm a very ambitious guy, but after I practiced like for 2 weeks, even just 2 weeks, just being in the car, driving, and mindfulness and focusing, even the brain says, turn the music on, turn some podcasts, and always focusing, or spend time, then a lot of thoughts come in, spend time back and focusing on driving well, even though boredom comes up and anxiety. Over like 2 weeks already, like I had way more capacity to hold emotions. I was calmer. I was more productive. Less thoughts come in my head. It's going to be different for every person. It's going to be about the work you put in. But guess what? It's going to be easier because you're going to get stronger. The other way, you don't have an alternative, because it might feel like a boost of like compulsion, juice, and drugs, but you literally are going to get weaker. You're hurting your mental health. And over time, you will have just anxiety after anxiety. You will get in a hole. So it's going to be like that challenge of going in that direction anyway, doing the things that you value with any emotions and thoughts, and doing it mindfully. And yeah, I can give you as much, I try to give you as much as I could in this podcast, but I'm telling you, don't even use what I told you today as a compulsion of like, oh, I need to use mindfulness and this technique. And am I doing this right? Or should I get another program? Should I get another program? Should I watch another video? Yeah, from time to time, you can use it as a reminder, or maybe you need some more information and watch something else. But I'm telling you, your brain is not changing from what I say today in this podcast. Your brain is changing when you do the actions and you don't feel like it. When you do the actions with any emotions and thoughts. When you practice mindfulness, as hard or challenging as it might be, over time, your brain will change. You will be more productive. You will be more calm, and you will trust yourself. Trust is not built by having a trusting feeling before, a confident feeling before. Trust is built by showing that little child and showing yourself that you can do those things with any emotions and thoughts. This trust is built by saying, I can only do this thing if I feel confident. I can only talk to these girls or guys if I feel confident. So that was as best as I could to like get into the emotional fitness.
Yeah, no, I love it. And there was
In the short time that we have.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. There's a lot of value in there that I'm going to take away. I think a lot of people can take that away as well, because really it's like the same as, like I was saying earlier, like I was hearing Wayne Dyer saying amazing stuff, Tony Robbins, Brené Brown, all these great teachers. I'm learning from them, and then it's when you actually apply it then it happens. And the value that you're sharing now and the insights that you're sharing around how people can change, it all works if they apply it, right? Rather than just listen to that and go, these ideas are amazing. That, oh, great, now I feel so much better because I've got
Exactly.
the answers that I need. They are. But if you apply them, then you really get to sit in that and experience that. And I know my brain tells me all the time that because I when I'm shifting perceptions, you can't see that. It's a shift that goes on inside somebody, the same way that when someone trains themselves to be somebody different, they'll start seeing themselves in a different light. Their self-perceptions will change as a result of having done uncomfortable actions over time. And my brain's like, well, you need this on paper and you need these steps and you need to be able to show people all of that, because but the brain's addicted to thought, it's addicted to information. And that's why the more we consume, the more we want. And the more we think, the more we want to think. And it goes on and on and on until we have that self-mastery and self-control to say, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to come back to the present moment. And it takes effort to do that. But the results are really powerful. And it's because our brain's wanting to avoid discomfort and it's wanting to avoid pain. And I came across a Brené Brown quote actually recently, or I heard her saying, I wrote it down because it really jumped out at me. She said, we will do almost anything to not feel pain, including causing other people pain. And it's so much easier to hurt than to feel hurt. And that's the thing. It's easier to think, to consume more information. It's how the marketing industry and most of the industries are built on. Buy my product, your life will be better. You'll be better. And we both know that's a lie. You don't need anything in order to be better. You just need to be being you and letting go of anything that's in the way of that, or this idea that your happiness and success will be somewhere off in the future. It's right now in you doing the things that you want to do. And that might be different for everybody. For some of us, it's doing podcasts, like, you know, and enjoying that and creating videos and coaching. For somebody else, it might be being a teacher or being a parent or being a friend or whatever it is that's there for you. And the idea that there is a particular route that we can do is etched in that, right? Somebody might just want to if I can't think of an example, but like whatever they want to do, that we have society-based ideas of what you should be doing. You know, be an influencer or go and do this, and then that everybody looks at that and thinks that's great. But it's only great if you're enjoying doing it, because you're the one experiencing it, being in the moment, and that has to do it. So yeah, to the question that I have for you is, if you could go back with everything that you now know and have experienced, and give your younger 12-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you tell them?
I know a lot of people give the answer like, I would not change anything because that's got me here. But that wouldn't be my truthful answer. I would probably say go earlier to the US. And I would say switch the school, because I got bullied for 7 years in that school. And some people are like, oh, if you got bullied in that school, probably going to be in that other school. No, it wasn't. But I got way too late to that other school. But then again, if I wasn't that bullied that much, maybe I wouldn't have became such a hardhead. I don't know. That question is hard, and I actually don't like answering that question, because you never know like what would happen. But I think one of them, I think I would have my 12-year-old. I would have wanted to know. I really would have wanted to know about this. I would have wanted to know about compulsions. I would have wanted to know and explain it to me in a way that I would understand it as a 12-year-old. And there's ways to make someone understand and show a 12-year-old to go out there and do actions with any emotions and thoughts, and teach a 12-year-old mindfulness. I think I would have wished for that. And I would tell, once I have a 12-year-old, once my kid is like 6, I'm going to teach my kid. Actually, it's more of a not teaching them the weird ways of society, because a lot of times they're already mindful. And it's going to be just about letting them explore more things. And what would I have told my 12-year-old? It's such a hard question. I would have told him to explore a lot of things, not not try to get, not thinking that that one friend that you had was be so scary about losing them. It's not about that one friend that you lose. It's about you growing and building skills and exploring more things and trying more things out. And don't chase this big goal of trying to be in the NBA, trying to be a pilot, trying to be playing soccer. Just do the things, just spend time on the things that you want to grow and build skills and do them with any emotions and thoughts. And give more love to your family, pay more attention to your family. And because I felt like I felt like I never had enough because I didn't get, so I felt like I need to, and I feel like I didn't give enough to attention and love to my family. So like things like this, but you cannot, I mean, cannot go back and you cannot teach my parents had their parents, you know, they weren't taught these things, but it's good that we have like information nowadays out there. And there's some people who change things like us who actually practice these things. And it's important to practice the things. And I think I was always a kid that knew that it's about the practice. I could have been more efficient if I had like my big me telling me that back in the day. But yeah, such a great question. Do you ask everyone that?
I do, yeah.
It's such an emotional question. I think if it was like a client ask, I don't know. I don't know if I would have gone, but like, yeah, I wanted to answer that as truthful as I could. Part of it is like you never know because you don't know where you would have ended up if you, but that's what I talked today about. I hope people understand that this is not like a technique that like a religion or things that people put on someone. This is literally your natural state that you get to by not feeding those old patterns, trauma patterns anymore, and instead making it about the actions that you want to grow. So I would tell that kid, explore things, go out there and explore as many things as possible, travel. Don't make it about results. Don't chase this whole famous thing. And like, that will come anyway if you do the actions and build so many skills. You cannot be denied if you make it about mindfully doing step by step the actions. Um, yeah, and I would tell them you don't need to get something from someone else. You don't need to get authority someone else. They don't know better than you. You can learn, but literally you got yourself. I would tell them you don't need this special trick. There's no special trick. I would tell him. If he would listen to me, I would be like, there's no special trick. You don't need a special trick. It's you got yourself. You got everything you need. And now it's just about you doing the actions that you want to grow and learn along the way and do the skills. And this thing, if I would love if he got it, because people get so enticed by these complicated teachings because they seem so, they must be true because they're so woven and complicated and spiritual and there's light and there's flashy things. But this is this is actually what works. I know that it works because I changed my brain, I experienced it, and I know that a lot of the other things that I used to believe in just are confirmation bias. If I look back, I was just looking for it to be true. So I would literally give that to my kid, and I hope a lot of parents give that to their kids, because that's how people stop being slaves to their emotions. And if you stop being a slave to their emotions, how can there be war? How can there be hurting other people in relationships if you're acting based on your values? Yeah, people will still be hurt, but not you trying to make a feeling feel better. And because of your jealousy, you're trying to get revenge by cheating on someone. You're not on that emotional addictive engine anymore because you trained yourself to be on the valued action engine. That's such a great question, man. I would probably need like some more deeper stuff in that, but so that caught me off guard, and I'm glad I like answered it in a way that's like vulnerable. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, I love that. And I love your answer. And I love, where you went to with that, right? And you went real deep. And it's well, I wrote something down there
Give me
because
another question like that. These are good. Good. I don't know where you got, but these are good. I kind of like it. It's like building the skill now to be like put on the
put on
spot
the
and try,
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And then that is that exploration. It's that new. There's one more question that I definitely want to ask you because it's gonna bug me if I don't anyway. But what one thing you said there about the confirmation bias, right? Because we look at going back to 12-year-old self, everything that's that 12-year-old version of us that's going through life, it's confirming what they already know, and the brain is wanting to confirm what's already true. And then it adds and adds and adds and adds and adds more weight to that. And that's why you mentioned earlier, one of the things that's helped you to grow is not having to be right. You don't have to be right about everything. You don't have to prove everybody wrong. You just get to do stuff and then figure out from there. Because this is like the curse of being an expert. I'm like going out there going, I'm an expert. I know what I'm talking about. I've got this stuff. It's like I have to be right. I have to be perfect. I have to prove you wrong. Like, no, I just know stuff that helps. And if you want to do it, it might be really helpful for you. And then that's great. And things that I was right about 10 years ago, I was wrong about. And then now I'm, it's constantly disproving that and finding out what's new. But what's also interesting is, if 12-year-old you had the advice that you've given it today, you wouldn't be the person you are now. And, we're grateful for the value that you offer and all the experiences and challenges that you went through make that you now, right? So that's what we get. And so it might have been different. Who knows? You could be like you made like 10 billion and be some sort of like crazy investor and gone down a different route. But that's what's kind of meant to happen. But 2 words jumped out at me straight away from what you said out of everything. There was lots of stuff in there that I really loved. But 2 words jumped out, and you said, go earlier.
Say it again.
You said go earlier. So I'd go to the US earlier, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that hits deep because that's what I think life's about. We have these gut feelings. We have this in our heart, what we want to do, and we wait. And however long we wait is what it is. But when people say like, oh, well, I'll do it when I'm ready, you're ready the moment you decide that you're ready. And I'll often get DMs from people saying, hey, I really, love your stuff and I really want some advice on how can I overcome fear, or I'm in this relationship and I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what to do? Or I want to be more confident. Can you give me some tips and some tricks on how to do that? You could Google tips and tricks. It's all out there. Everything's out there. What you're looking for is me to do it for you. That's what it is. And so by going earlier, by taking the risk earlier, by being vulnerable earlier, you get to find out who you are and you get to walk the path, and you just get to speed the path up.
Yeah, I love that what you said. Yeah, we just do the things. The brain's gonna tell you you're not ready yet. Do it with the brain saying, it's not you saying you're not ready yet. It's the brain saying you're not ready yet, because it literally procrastinating to control not being heard, to control not failing. But you need to fail, and you might not fail, but you need to fail, or you need to go through these things to build skills. And I love what you said about you can't Google these tricks, but you know what you can't Google? You cannot Google experience. You know what the funny thing is? Gary Vee said this, and before he said this, I already knew this because I see it. He said, I give everything away for free. And they asked him, why are you so confident to give everything for free? Everybody's able going to use it and they're going to be bigger competition. And he was like, they're not going to use it. Most people are not going to use it. Most people are not going to use it. And that's the same way like me. I literally give everything away. And that like some people are like, oh, but what if some other teacher regurgitates all your information, takes your book, teaches the exact same thing? They cannot, if they don't practice the amount of things I practice, and I really practiced. If they don't practice and go through these things, they're not even able to grasp it fully. They're not even able to have a full understanding. And they're not able to teach another person from all the angles I'm able to teach them, because it's like a professional tennis player who has done the backhand, forehand, up from all angles. And now he's able to teach someone from all angles and is not going to be stumped at any examples, because he practiced it so much, coached so much, that he has an experimental relationship with life instead of regurgitating information. And I'm telling you, most people, therapists, I see some crazy therapists out there regurgitating information, and which doesn't work, by the way. A lot of the therapy you guys go to that they learn in university, there's some crazy stuff in there, and there's some nonsensical stuff in there. And they just sit there and talk about the past and talk about things instead of actually going out there doing things. That's like, and Mark Freeman talks about this. That's like talking about doing the bench press and never going to bench press. So it's really about the practice. But this is even like this podcast. I mean, there's probably like some people who listen to this and like, great information. I love these guys. They're great, man. And it's going to give you something. But there's going to be some people who are like, I'm going to practice this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to do this mindfully. And those are the people that will be successful. And then there's going to be some people who are like, okay, that was great. Let's go to the Joe Rogan. Let's go to the next podcast. Let's go to the next thing. Let's find something more to make the feeling feel better. So it's, yeah, man, it's trippy if you look at that 95% of people are chasing teaching after teaching, authority after authority. And it's exactly the same thing that you said earlier. When I was a kid, I thought famous people were different, especially being from Germany, because you're not in the US, in LA, like meeting them all the time. I followed Allen Iverson as a basketball player. I thought he's like so different. I thought they were special. And the problem is they also been put on a pedestal like they're special. They're getting hyped up because the media companies around make so much money of saying King James, LeBron James, he's a special being. He's the chosen one. No, he's not. No, he's not. And he's not as, like, he's a good basketball player, but he's not like this immense, gigantic human being that you guys make him in this special, like, walking on water. And a lot of these like pop stars, even, they make them like as these, no, they sing, they have a great voice. But once I met these people, it was only by me, and even me just coming into this position, I'm still like, I look myself in the mirror and I look at it and like, how did I even get here? Like, how are people wanting to take pictures with me on the street? How are people like writing me as if I'm like this, like every day getting, like every month getting thousands of messages about what to do and all this stuff? And it's like, I'm a normal human. And I didn't say this earlier, but I used to work with kids for like also like 3-4 years here in LA. And we used to do schools, but we used to do a lot of celebrity houses. So a lot of celebrities that you guys know out there with their kids, I hung out with them. And they are normal ass people. None of them are special. Yes, they have special skills because they trained them with actions, but they might have some like talent, so to say, that comes like that makes it easier, but it's still literally practice and them having skills. And you guys can go the same if you just go in that direction and don't give up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, that mastery comes from being in there and doing the action. And that's what you get, that you cannot get from reading or doing a book or anything else. You know, it's like creating the podcast. I would prepare. Anything I do for the first time, I over prepare. You know, I have like hundreds of questions and everything mapped out. And then I get in and then I use 2 questions because the conversation goes where it goes. And then but you don't know that and don't learn that until you're in there. And it's
Yeah.
like, the same with therapy, right? I did therapy for 6 months. I learned a lot about myself. There was a lot going on, and it was really useful. But what compounded it for me is afterwards, I took so much action. I got
Yeah.
really into action in my life. And so all this stuff that I discovered about myself and shifted, I applied and put it out there. And that's the great thing about coaching, is that we're having a conversation, we're finding out what's going on, and then crafting actions that make it actually happen. And there's some accountability there each week in order to move those actions forward. And the way I'm able to understand people is because I have hundreds and hundreds of conversations with people, different people, and I hear what happens for people, what their struggles are. So that helps me understand them, and then helps me to look for ways to help them in ways that you can't get reading a book about. Well, this is why people struggle, and this is why you procrastinate. Everyone procrastinates for different reasons. Maybe the underlying factor is wanting to avoid stress or discomfort or pain, but it shows up in different ways. But the more that we understand that ourselves, right? How's it show up for me? This is what I'm up against, and these are the actions I can take. You can only get that by doing it rather than on a book or something else. And so often I hear people say, things were going great when I was meditating and everything was good, and then I stopped, and then yeah, I didn't really, it's not been as good recently. What can I do? It's like, well, I think you've answered it yourself there. So yeah, it's just that power of taking the actions and being consistent, and then being kind to yourself when it doesn't work out as well. There's one question I want to ask you before we finish up, and it's just around when someone's feeling those uncomfortable feelings, and they're doing a task, they're preparing for something, and it's too much, right? They can't just carry on and do the thing because it's too much, but they don't want to go to a compulsion. What can they do in that moment to not take the feeling away, but also, regulate themselves and be able to stay in it, to be able to do the thing that they want to do?
Do you have an example?
So say somebody is working on a speech that they've got to give, and they sit down to write the speech, and it's triggering them because they're thinking, well, this is has to be perfect, and I'm really scared, and it's too much. And so they sit down to do it, but then they're too anxious, they can't do it. So then they want to go on the phone, check Instagram, they want to do something else. But staying in it is really hard. What can they do?
Well, there's two things. First off, saying you can't do something is already giving you a lotus of control outside. And people always talk about, oh, I can't do this because I have emotions. I have this crazy panic emotion of panic, and that's why I can't do these things. Emotions are not like tentacles. Emotions are not knives. Emotions are not like arms holding you back. You can do it with the panic. If I would give you $1 million with panic to run to find the next movie theater, you would be able to do it. It's not saying it's not challenging, but it's saying physically you are able to do it. Now, this is part of the answer. And I talk to this with my clients. Yeah, it makes sense if something is 400 pounds, you cannot lift it a lot of times. But we have to look at, how did it get there? How did it get to 400 pounds? How did you get so weak that it's actually more like you cannot lift 20 pounds anymore because you got so weak? So how did it get there? And it got there by a lot of compulsions that you did before. So it's actually not about this one situation. It's about from now on that you cut out, for example, it's the same patterns. I'm showing you, it's the same patterns. So you trying to avoid anxiety, this high panic by going on social media is the same as you trying to avoid boredom by going on social media. All the emotions are connected. Some feel bigger and some feel smaller. But when you practice that emotional fitness with boredom and a slow amount of anxiety, you will also get stronger with a bigger amount of anxiety. Now, I still want you guys to work with the 400 pounds, so to say, But yeah, it's going to be not this one trick that you're doing then right there. The answer would be to write it anyway with the panic and to go on stage with the panic and focus mindfully on what do you want to give instead of, because that person's mind already does a lot of compulsions on what are these people thinking about me? Oh, they're probably hating me. What if I fail? So the thought can come in of, oh, how is the speech going to go? But if then you like, oh, yeah, right. Maybe I'm going to fail. You talking back to that thought instead of coming back mindfully to preparing the speech, even if those thoughts come up and you go mindfully back, I'm writing this right now. And then you ask yourself, okay, what value do I want to give? Instead of what do I want the reaction of the audience to be? Because you can control that reaction.
Yeah.
If you make it about what validation can I get from the audience, you're showing your brain that you love getting validation. Your brain doesn't differentiate. It doesn't judge you for chasing validation. It's just like, oh, he loves chasing validation in other people. Okay, how can I support him more in chasing validation in other people? Oh, I don't have arms or legs to support him in chasing validation in other people, but I have emotions, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So I can give him more insecurity. I can give him more thoughts of not being good enough that he can react to, because then he will chase more validation if I give him more feelings and thoughts of insecurity. That's the same with the girls that post on social media. If I give her more comparison thoughts about that other girl that seems hotter than you, then she's chasing more of the validation.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about sharing yourself in a way that you value, giving what you value, and then you're showing your brain that you value yourself. Now, in the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable because the old brain pattern says, no, you got to share to be safe. You got to share things that other people are going to like you because you don't want to be judged and bullied again, like in 5th grade. Do you remember? And you got to be like, okay, brain, little child, no, it's okay. I'm going to mindfully do this now. I'm going to share this. And it's going to be like, no, you can't. And you're going to do it anyway with the uncomfortable emotions. And the more you do it, the more you show the brain that you value yourself because you're doing the things that you value. And then your brain will support you in that. And over time, it stops giving you those validations. But the answer is, it started way earlier. It started when you reacted and talked back to those thoughts. It started when you try to control anxiety. It started when you avoided writing that speech the first time because you said you're not good enough. It started when you didn't go on that stage to perform and told your dad and mom that you're not ready yet and you need to take more speech classes. It started in those situations, and all the patterns are connected. It's a checking compulsion. It's a chasing compulsion. You checking in your head if you're good enough. It's the same thing as checking in your phone if you got enough validation likes from your social media. It's the same checking compulsion, and it's going to be about eradicating those compulsions along the way on all those hemispheres. And the more you take those compulsions out and focus on doing the things that you value, over time, you will be writing those speeches and going on stage. But now you got to go on stage anyway with the panic and embrace the panic. There's a study out there that says the biggest factor of panic attacks is people being scared of panic attacks. So it's actually going to be, Dr. Reed Wilson talks about this, and Mark Freeman talks about this too. Give me more anxiety. This is great. Give me more. I love the anxiety. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? Give me more. Because the more you resist the anxiety, the more you say, I'm not supposed to have this feeling, the more the brain freaks out about it. So it's going to be about, I can have this anxiety, and I'm going to go on stage with anxiety. And a lot of people are like, no, I should only go on stage when I'm confident, because only when I'm confident, I'm going to give a good speech. And then your brain's like, oh, we need to be clean before we go on stage. We need to be clean and not have this disgusting feeling of anxiety. And then your brain is like, oh, but does this cause anxiety? Is that causing anxiety? Is those people causing anxiety? And the brain looks for more reasons for you to have anxiety. So the answer is going to be, I can have this feeling, write this now, have this panic, and go on stage and do the action. Only make it about the actions and do it mindfully. And can you have the anxiety? Can you have the panic and do it? Even with the bigger things, it will give people so much more breakthrough. But yeah, you can start with the smaller things, with the cutting out social media, with the talking to 5 people because you said you're going to talk to 5 people, saying hi to 5 people because you said you're going to say hi, and make your success just saying hi, not about the result, not about their reaction. It's almost like, I always say this, a guitarist who's performing on stage is not going to look in the audience and it's like, oh, do you like the way I play the song? They just play that song. And the same way, if you share yourself with someone, don't check in their face and don't check how they like it. Share yourself and share your value. Yeah, your brain's going to be like, oh, but we never shared ourselves this honestly and in a way that we value, because we always did it in a way that we thought is cool by the standards of society. And you can react to that. And if you share yourself more in a way that you value, over time, you actually become more confident because you're showing your brain that that's okay. You're taking that little child and you're being your real self. Because if you always chase validation, you're going to be the fake self. And then you're going to attract fake friends because the friends are only going to know, oh, this is what he's like. Oh, I guess I'm going to be his friend. But you're going to be friends with people that like to fake you. But when you share yourself in the real way, the way you value, there's going to be people out there who be like, I love this guy for this. But that's why you need to go to events that you value and share yourself in a way that you value, because that's where you meet people with similar interests, not where you think it's cool and where other people say it's cool. You go to places that you value and then share yourself in a way that you value. And then people will recognize you for who you are. And that's why pickup artists, right? The whole pickup artist online, that's why that shit doesn't work at all. The reason why it doesn't work at all is because they still teach techniques for the guy to be attractive in the eyes of the girl. So he's still trying to change himself in a way to be attractive in the eyes of the girl. So he still chases the validation. Now, what people don't tell that person is that the brain learns from that. It learns that you love chasing validation, and it will give you more insecurity and more insecurity, no matter how many tricks you do. And you might get as far as being in a relationship with that girl, but in the relationship, you cannot lie for long. The real you will come out because you will be phased by a lot of things if you're not yourself. And guess what? Being yourself and sharing yourself in a way that you value unapologetically might not get you that girl, because that is not a fit. But it's more attractive, even though we don't look for attractiveness, it's more attractive because you're just being unapologetic. And we don't look for it, but you're also going to meet people who you actually are attracted to. Like you literally change your attractiveness. I used to be attracted to people, to girls who, based on my trauma patterns, because we did power games, 45 minutes to text back just to get validation, whatever. When I shared to making it about the actions and the values and doing the things I value, now I'm literally attracted to different girls because I'm not attracted anymore from the brain patterns. I'm attracted to my real values. Your attraction will change. I used to be attracted to arrogant, stupid girls. None of these girls I'm attracted to anymore. I'm attracted now to, still girls that I'm attracted to physically, but if they're not loyal, I'm not attracted to them. If they don't do actions if they're not capable, I have certain values that I'm attracted to. And they can be beautiful, but if they dumb, I'm literally not attracted to them. I don't want to have sex with them. And some people are like, oh, that's crazy. I don't believe that. Yeah, you can't believe that now because you haven't changed your brain, because you're still in your old pattern. You see the world through your same pink glasses. You don't take those glasses off. And guess what? You are literally taking the same teachings. You're looking for teachings from these glasses. You're looking for self-help teachings and for techniques from these glasses. Even your goals, some of your goals are blinded by these glasses. You might want fame because you want validation. You might want to be a movie star because you want validation. You might still love being a movie star after, but can you do it from a place of value? So it's if you look at it, it's very deep, and it's something that society doesn't teach. And yeah, that was important for me to share that, because a lot of things that I was saying, society is just these techniques, these tricks. This is how you be attractive. how to be attractive. Look at all the TikTok videos, man. Like, these are 12 tricks how to be attractive to these girls. You just have to change this. You have to change that. And they don't show how it fucks up your mental health.
Yeah, I
You know?
think that's the perfect place for us to finish here, because
Yeah.
there's so much gold in there about, there's an idea that society tells us what confidence is and how a confident person should be, and people are trying to be this alpha male or trying to be a certain thing rather than being themselves, which is the most confident thing that can be.
Because the most alpha there is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so, again, it's just like, it's like the in not seeking the safety or the security, we then create that instead by being ourselves and being courageous. So I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an incredible conversation. I could have chatted for hours more. Where can people find you? Where's the best place?
Yeah, so my TikTok is King of Kings Energy. My YouTube is King of Kings Energy. And my Instagram is King of Kings Energy. And if you want coaching with me, you can message me on my Instagram. And the link in my bio, there is not only the emotional fitness program, there's how to create self-worth program, how to create healthy relationship program. Many resources are there. There's also, I have a community because I like to build a community of like-minded people. We do Zoom calls. They're completely free for them to connect. We usually have them Sundays where you guys can connect with each other in the community. And yeah, there's all kinds of resources to look at how to build emotional fitness. And I just want to say, I really enjoyed this conversation. John, you're a really good-hearted guy. I can sense that I enjoyed this conversation. It's so respectful, very intelligent. I'm glad, yeah, we talked on Instagram, and I'm looking forward to having you on my podcast and asking you. So I'm going to like have to step my game up to come up with some good questions there. You asked some, very good questions. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, bro. I really appreciate it. And look, for me, this is a great opportunity, and it shows if you're doing what you love and you do that enough, you can then create these opportunities. For me, I remember seeing you 6-12 months ago and thinking, oh my God, I'd love to have a conversation with Star. Like, there's so much I'd love to find out. And this is the opportunity, and it's been able to happen. So it's been, been a real honor to have you on. And like I said, I've done Star's emotional fitness program. I got a lot of benefit from it. So I highly recommend that. Checking out his content, go and connect with him, and find out, how he can help you be yourself and create the life that you want. So, yeah, we'll end it there. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah. And we'll see you on the next one. Big love.
Thank you.